Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Paradox East Radio. I'm here with a loving couple who is working together, successful together, thriving together, and also overcoming challenges together, because that's how you reach success. And we're here to talk about a lot of things that will help you in your goals of 2026, whether that's in business, whether that's personal, whether that's building your family business, or just some life hacks for being successful in 2026. We're here with Carress Wilson, the president and leading of day-to-day operations, and Curtis, the CEO, keeping those profits up on a quarterly basis. We're going to talk about all the businesses that they're doing, because they are multi-serial entrepreneurs, and right here at Paradox East Radio. Carress and Curtis, thank y'all for being here this afternoon.
Thank you.
We thank you for having us on your show, Tim. We are honored. We're glad to be able to serve and help the public and those that have questions about entrepreneurship, because that's what we're here for. So any way we can help and serve you guys with questions when it comes to entrepreneurship and starting your business, that's what we're here for.
So let's start with the success. Let's start with the success and what's working for y'all, and what is bringing bringing your ideas to fruition. And let's start out with your most successful business right now. If you had to explain to someone what you do day to day as a couple, as business owners, what would you describe your day to day of running your business?
Right. So for us, short-term rentals is what got us kicked off. So just a quick background story. We started out having a property, and we didn't know what to do with the property. Traditionally it was coming across as, rented out, traditional way, find a tenant. But we didn't want to do that. And I'm talking about 2017. We didn't want to do that. So we was like, how can we be creative with this property that we had? So the idea came to fruition that we would do short-term rentals. And that's kind of how we got kicked off. Now, fast forward later, 8 years later, we have, 13 properties that we short-term rental. And that is the foundation of our entrepreneurship is that. So that's how we use that for cash flow and those general purposes. What would you?
I mean, that's our day to day. So, I mean, it is a business, but it is something that is very hands-on, and it's something that continues to keep us busy all the time.
Now, we can't just zoom past one property to, would you say 13?
Yeah.
So let's start at the one.
Okay.
And when did you know that you were ready for 2 and then 3? And that is outstanding. So how do you go from, when did you know you were ready for 2 and 3?
I think the one started off, it was more hobby.
Yeah.
And so when Kurt realized that it was working and that it was something that, this is actually bringing in some extra money, I think that was when we decided to venture out. So the second one, how long?
Yeah, it was about a year later. So like I said, we're talking 2017. And mind you, the first property that we had, it's on our personal residence. So, we had a separate garage space that the previous owners had that they was using for their mother-in-law or some in-laws or something like that. And we took that separate garage space and put it on Airbnb just to try it out, because back in that time Airbnb wasn't as popular as it is now, and we didn't really know what it was, but I put it on there for probably about 6 to 9 months. It was bringing in income, but like Carress said, it was more of a hobby. It was fun money, play money, until I looked on YouTube and I saw people really taking Airbnb and creating a business out of it. So I said, at the time I really didn't know about scaling and reinvesting money and all that. At the time, it was just a hobby. We didn't have an LLC set up. We didn't have any of that. So, fast forward to about 6 to 9 months later, within that same year, we went out and purchased another property, and we started, scaling from that point from there. So.
Yeah, and it was very interesting because it wasn't like we didn't know the tips and tricks that we know now, and so we went out and bought stuff. We were at Ashley and I don't know what the other furniture store is here in Huntsville, but we bought stuff we turned it into we were going to be living there, and that's something to keep in mind, that's not what you should be doing when you're trying to do short-term rental. But anyway,
we had a lot of lessons learned between the first, second, and third for properties. A lot of money going out. And really probably was a wash, if for lack of a better word. So, with Airbnb short-term rentals, you get a lot of cash flow coming in from a day-to-day basis. It's not like a traditional job where you're getting paid, every 2 weeks or once a week. Airbnb short-term rental, you're getting paid, 15, 16 times a month. So you see that cash flow coming in regularly, But if you don't have the discipline and the I guess experience to be able to manage all that, you can get yourself in a lot of trouble. So we had to learn all of that before we can scale from the 2 to 3 all the way up to the 13. So.
And I also want you to, and again, remember, I want you to repeat the question before you answer it. And you brought up a really good point of doing things the right way before you get in trouble, or you get things get away from you and you're trying to play catch up. How do y'all balance all of the responsibilities in running a short-term rental? How do you balance those duties? And because I'm sure there's a lot of checks and balances that you have to do. I think there's probably a lot of showing up, and there's a lot of maintaining the property, and there's all of these different things. I can imagine there's probably 1,000 tasks, but my question is, how do y'all balance the A to Z of running a short-term rental?
I think we balance it, balance the day-to-day with a lot of lists. I'm a list person, and so Kurt likes Excel spreadsheets, so he's got a spreadsheet for everything. But I think that's really what keeps us on task and on track, is knowing, okay, well, this is what we're working on today, and these are our goals where we're trying to go. And so once you have a list in place, and now that we've done it so long, it kind of comes second nature. But I think that with the list in place, it definitely keeps you on track, so you know what goals you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and how do I balance, piggybacking off of what Carress said, how do I balance it all it's kind of that, you have your traditional methods of your sales spreadsheets. You get into a routine of the whole system. You start putting things into place, systems that work, those that don't work, and you create some type of formula system within yourself. So, we like to tell people that, once again, that short-term rentals is hospitality. So once you understand that that's the foundation of the business, it's not traditional real estate, you kind of start weighing what's important when it comes to that balance aspect of it all. So.
What would you say is the highlight and the payoff or the benefit, that you go home and you're like, I'm really glad we're doing this. What is the highlight of that? And then what's the, this is the hard, I hate this part of it. What is the good and the bad, the payoff and the sacrifice? What is the payoff and the sacrifice of doing short-term rentals? Right.
So, what's the payoff and the sacrifice of short-term rentals? And the obvious answer is obviously going to be the money. People are going to say, let's get to the elephant in the room. Am I going to make money in this space? So that's the payoff. Is replacing our salaries, where we're blessed to be able to replace our salaries with short-term rentals, a couple of times over. So we're blessed in that aspect. But, the payoff of that, and then understanding that you're providing a service to people. You're helping people that essentially needs a place to stay for whatever and however long they need that place to stay. You're providing a service. So that's a feel-good feeling to have. Now, I'll let Carress kind of give her, payoff. It may be something totally different. And the fact that we get to spend time together. I mean, being able to work with my spouse day in and day out, being able to have that time back to do some of the things that we want to do because we bought our time back, and short-term rentals has allowed that for it. What would you say, son?
I would say the payoff is the working together.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be a challenge, but it's fun. I mean, as long as we're having fun together, I think that's what we have to try and keep in mind, and also being able to make our own schedules.
Right.
I think the sacrifice that bothers me is the time commitment, because it's not just, you get somebody in there and you don't have to see the property, you don't have to deal with people. Dealing with people, it can be a great thing, but it can also be a challenge. So I think the sacrifice is the time that it takes away from, if it's a holiday and you've still got to deal with people checking in, checking out, cleaning, the business aspect, you still have to deal with those things. So the sacrifice on time constraint, and then also dealing with people, because like Kurt said, it's hospitality, but sometimes that can be a challenge.
Yeah, and it's always going to be that. Like I say, there's certain systems and stuff that you can place to kind of automate a lot of those tasks and dealing with people and all that. And we, kind of talk about all that in our course or whatever the case may be. But like you say, starting out, you're always going to be dealing with people. There is no like a traditional 9 to 5 where you're clocking out 5 and you're going about your day. When you're dealing with hospitality and people coming in, and that's always going to happen, whether it's weekends, nights, after hours, whatever the case may be. You're going to have constantly people reaching out to you to meet their needs or whatever the case may be in regards to your unit.
So let's talk about your book, and let's talk about your course. Let's first start with the book. Tell us about your book and what solutions people will find in it.
All right, so yeah, as you guys can see, I got the book here. It's 7 biggest mistakes entrepreneurs make before they leave their job. And some of the solutions that you're going to find in there is just that. I've outlined step by step some of the biggest mistakes that people are going to make. And these are personal experiences and mistakes that I personally made. So I advise and I highly recommend anybody that's in the entrepreneur space or thinking about leaving their job, go get a copy of that book because it will help you. And I'm talking about helping you from a time management all the way down to regulations, already to mindset and freedom of it all. So, you're going to get, factual step-by-step instructions on that transition before you just say, wake up today or tomorrow and say, I'm going to quit my job, arbitrarily. It's a lot of things that you want to make sure that you have in place before you do that. And I outlined that in 7 different ways to help you make that transition. What about your experience, or what do you think?
I'm really proud of you in the book. I think it's factual. It's like you said, it's experience that we've lived through and that you've lived through. And I think that just puts some things in perspective that you really need to consider, because a lot of times we say, oh, I'm just going to jump into this, and you haven't thought about, the basic things that you take for granted on a regular 9-to-5 job. And I think you've outlined that really good in the book. Yeah.
So say one of the chapters, I do a whole chapter talking about rules and regulations, and that's specifically geared to any business, not just short-term rentals. When you're talking about operating a business, there's certain policies and procedures that you got to adhere for in your local counties and things of that nature when it comes to business license, zoning. I dedicate a whole chapter on that to help you make sure that you're within the confines of whatever those rules and regulations are of your respective city. So, those are some of the things you'll get out of the book.
All right, and tell us about the course. What is the title of the course? What can you learn in the course, and how to get the course? Talk to us about the course that you offer.
Okay, so the course, as you guys can see, you can find the course on kurt-wilson.com. Please go there, support. It's going to be on kurt-wilson.com, and under there you're going to see where you can get the course, and under there it's going to be a tab that says Short-Term Rental Academy, where you can buy the course, one-time payment, buy the course.
Exit Strategy Academy.
Exit Strategy Academy.
Yeah.
See? That's why I got, thank you. What did I say?
Short-term rental.
Okay, exit strategy. See, that's why you got to have a partner, That's why you see she does that. So yeah, under that exit strategy, you're going to get, over 10 hours of hands-on, how step-by-step, how you can go from, I want to get into the short-term rental space, to making this a, profitable business that you can do whatever you want to do with it, from either retiring, replacing your job, or whatever that needs to be. So you go there, you're going to get over 50 lessons at your own pace that you can download, and gives you step-by-step instructions on how to get in this space and operate a profitable short-term rental.
And also some modules in there, some printouts, so that way you can know, checklists, things like that. So that way you can keep on track and make sure that, you're doing what you need to do and implementing what you need to implement to succeed in your business. I think a lot of times, you think about short-term rentals or any business and you're just overwhelmed because you don't even know where to start. And I think the course really outlines, where to begin, some things to consider, and just kind of gives you some instruction on what to consider regardless of what business it is, whether it's short-term rental or a t-shirt business, anything, but things to keep in mind for your specific business venture to help you succeed.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to also, on that site, you're going to see other things. We have other business ventures that we help people with, like I say, for example, you'll see stuff on there like traditional multifamily, traditional investment properties. You'll see something about government contracts, because we're in that space as well. As Tim mentioned at the very beginning, we have serial entrepreneurs. So we have several things, but that course is definitely going to help you in that short-term rental space as you dive into that venture. So
all right, and before we get out of here, I want y'all to think about the grand old question and your answer to it. If I knew now, if I knew then what I know now, what would you tell yourself, the person that's starting fresh, they're just beginning, and you can give them the game to say, look, if I knew then what I know now, this is how I would, or this is what I would change, or this is what I would have done different, or this is what I would have improved on, or this is what I would not have done. If I knew then what I knew now, what is your advice to that person?
Yeah, so I'm gonna let Carress go first. If I knew now, or should I say if I knew then?
If I knew then what I
know now.
What I know now, yeah.
Yep.
I would say,
and I want you to start it off with that. You know, if I knew then what I know now.
okay. If I knew then what I know now, I would say start off with being more patient with myself, but also being willing to communicate and open up relationships and foster relationships with more people, because this space is all about relationships and who you know, and it really does help you open those doors. And so it's very important. You don't know who you're coming in contact with, and that could be with anything. So I feel like fostering relationships, communicating with people, opening yourself up to meeting new people and putting yourself out there, I think that's something that I would say I wish I had done sooner and do more often, even now.
Yeah, so for me, and that's great. If I knew then what I know now, it's a simple. It's going to be from a monetary standpoint. At the end of the day, we're doing this to make money. So if I knew then, I would understand business management, cash flow, anything that relates to that when you're talking about making your business a profitable business. At the end of the day, time is more valuable than money, but even though money is an important tool, we got to understand how it works and how to use that money as it comes in. So if I had a better understanding of money management, because that money flowing in, you have to give it a place for it to go. You have to put it to work back into your business. And if you don't do that, that money will flow out of your accounts and you won't have no accountability for it, but those expenses will be there and you're kind of lost. And that's how a lot of businesses go out. We don't understand the understanding of money management, business management. So I would highly recommend myself and teach myself management skills when it comes to business. How to get in contact with us, once again, is go to Wilson.com. There's be a way that you can contact us directly. You can book a session with us and we'll have a one-on-one consultation to see how we can help you in whatever business venture you have going on, because it's just not in the short-term rental space. We help people that want to get started out. Like I say, if the book kind of highlights that transition, and after you get the book and read through that, you want to contact us so we can help you make that transition as smooth as possible. So remember,
social media
platforms. We're on Facebook, all your platforms, and it's going to be Kurt Wilson. You can find us on Facebook. You can find us on IG. What's the TikTok? The TikTok is under our business name, which is A Quiet Home Corp. You go to TikTok, and you'll find us there as well. But the easiest and the fastest way to find us would be on our personal website, which is Wilson.com. And so we look forward to hearing from you, and we look forward to working with you and helping you grow your business, whatever that may be.
Yep, and don't hesitate to reach out, because we're here to answer any questions. Kurt loves to talk about business and business strategy, so we're here and don't hesitate to reach out, and we can help in any way we can.